what up, and welcome back. Today we'll be talking about the top 5 openers to master in TFT Set 6.5. Now my goal for this video is to give you guys 5 openers, and I have a bonus one at the end. 5 of the most common openers that you can play, how to play them, and what are your potential outs so that you can have a lot of patch versatility, so you can have a lot of sustained very well in the meta. You won't get patched out if you learn all these 5 openers. There are more openers than these, and I am limiting these to 1 and 2 costs because those are things you can hit almost every single game. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. Okay, the first one we have here is Innovator Clockwork. Now this is a very common opener, very strong opener, and let's just go through it. So items, if you get this opener, get an opener that looks like this. Items, you want to put them on Camille, Ezreal, or Twitch, which you may be adding to this build in a second, very common. So we're going to talk about some potential outs in just a second. I'll talk about some better units to pair with this, but some pros and cons. Typically, this is a very strong early game. Innovator is a very strong early game, and you have a lot of options. This is typically very strong if your units are upgraded. You have a 2-star Ezreal, 2-star Singe, usually going to be very strong on level 4 and level 5, all that good stuff. The downside is you can get very dizzy, which is just where you get confused about what you're going to play unless you are rerolling. This comp is very easy to play if you're rerolling, but you can get very dizzy if you're like a newer player and stuff. Trying to play like around Innovator Flex can get confusing if you're not a very good Innovator player, but if you're not a good Innovator player, you should learn how to become a better one anyways. So very good to play around Innovators. So what are some of the common outs? So what are some common units to add to this build? Innovators pair very, very, very well, very naturally with challengers, because this is a challenger right here, and also pairs very well with Chemtech. So this is a challenger right here, and let's say you wanted to carry like a Tryndamere. Well, you just add a Tryndamere, right? Or Warwick, whatever. Add a Warwick, now you have challenger, and all you have to do is add one more of something else. You can add a Twitch, you can add a Zac, you can add so many things. So Chemtech and challengers work really, really, really well together. So a lot of your builds will end up being around Chemtech, challengers, or innovators. So some of your common outs, so common end games, if you play this as an opener, if you want to use this and have the easiest, smoothest transitions, some of the common ones are going to be Twitch Innovator rerolls. So that's when you reroll Twitch and Innovator, Twitch, Chemtech, and the one cost Innovators and Camille and all that good stuff. I'm not going to teach you how to play these builds. That's not what this video is about. It's going to take forever. I'm just going to talk about some of the outs. So scrap vertical, if you want to just keep stacking scraps, because Ezreal and Echo are scraps, you can start adding Blitz, Aurelia, that sort of thing. You could do a scrap vertical and play around your augments. You can play vertical Innovator, just keep stacking Innovators until you have 5 or 7. Challenger reroll, as I just said, you can just use this to move into a Tryndamere or a Warwick build and just start rerolling challengers and just completely forsake Innovator. You don't have to keep playing Innovator, or you can keep playing it, whatever. Innovator Flex, so that's where you play 5 Innovators usually. You usually play 5 Innovators, and then you'll transition to a late game comp where you carry either Aurelia, Jhin, Jinx, Kha'Zix, etc., Jace, a bunch of different carries. So this is Innovator, very strong opener. You guys really need to learn how to play around Innovators for sure if you don't know how to play them now. All right, now this is one of the other most common and very powerful openers, not in terms of its actual board strength, but what it can do for you. This is the Yordle opener. This is the most common Yordle opener you'll get, is a combination of these 3 Yordles, Ziggs, Lulu, and Poppy. Obviously you can get any 2 cost, but this is just what I found the most common. Cool. A lot of outs on this. So if you're item stacking this current build, you will item stack Ziggs and Poppy. The great thing about this is Poppy is very good with tank items. And then since you're playing Yordles, anytime you need to replace her and put the items on someone else, maybe you hit a Leona 2-star later, or you hit a Braum or something, you want to move items, it's real easy because you're going to get more Yordles from the Yordle portal. So just item stacking these 2 units early, there's no downside at all because you can just remake them at any point in the game if you want to continue to play Yordles. So you item stack Ziggs and Poppy. Those are the best ones to stack in the early game. Pros and cons, you get amazing econ. So this is the best way to generate econ other than maybe Mercs. And then also gives you very easy direction. I think this gives you very easy direction because if you hit a 2-star Ziggs, you got good AP items. Well, that's really easy direction that you can play, that you might be able to play like Ari or something like that, or maybe Malzahar mid game. And because you have this foundation of bodyguards plus Arcanist, which are comps that pair very well together. So I think it gives you really easy direction. You could also get like a 2-star Corki and start playing around twin shots. So I think the game naturally gives you direction and gives you a lot of econ. So that's really nice about playing Yordles. The downside is you are probably very weak in the early game. Because you're playing Yordles, you're playing an econ trait, you're playing a lot of synergy bots. Like if you're going to play Lulu does absolutely nothing for your comp other than gives you Yordle, which gives you econ. So you're probably going to be very weak. So if you're not comfortable playing with a econ advantage over a health advantage, then this is going to be difficult for you to play. But if you're trying to get better at the game, everyone needs to learn how to play with an econ advantage, and Yordle's definitely giving eco advantage. So, all right. So some common outs. So commonly some good units paired with Yordles is you just pair with whatever unit you're carrying. So if you're going to carry a Ziggs in the early game, you pair it with Arcanists and bodyguards, maybe enchanters, just depending on what you're hitting. Maybe there's a good socialite hex, right? If you're playing Corki, you know, if Corki is going to be your carry, then you're going to add some twin shots and you're going to build around that and not care about Arcanist, and you can still play around bodyguard, that sort of thing. So, and you can also, if you're going to play around Corki, you can even flex to playing around Bruisers, because you can play Gnar, and Gnar is a striker, and Rek'Sai is a striker. So there's a lot of flexibility. It just really depends on who you're actually carrying in your comp for the early and mid game. That's who you build your comp around. So just know that. So some common outs: you can fast 8 or fast 7. As I said, you will have a big econ advantage. So a lot of times you play Yordle for stage 2 and stage 3, you just go fast 7, fast 8, get to that level threshold a little bit quicker, and roll for a strong comp for the mid game or the late game. So some common fast 8 and fast 7 strategies is you just push into like a bodyguard based comp, and you can like transition that into an RE syndicate with bodyguards. So like if you're getting AP items, your item stacking the Ziggs, you can just transition into that. If you actually need to roll in the mid game and change your board, you can just get out of Yordles and make like a Malzahar board that you're just waiting to switch to RE later. So that's a common out. So RE syndicate bodyguards, very good out for the late game. Draven Jhin is a common late game when you're playing this, because Draven and Jhin pair very well with bodyguards. So you're using bodyguards as a base. You get some AD items. Maybe you put him on Corki or something. Even though he's AP, you can use the AD items. Put him on Corki or something, or Gnar, and transition that into a Draven or Jhin carry. You can also transition this into Enchanter reroll. You could just play this early game and then use this Lulu, and you hit a Senna and you hit a Morgana, and slowly transition out of Yordles and into a Senna Morgana focused comp, and you just slam the tank items on your Morgana, AD items on your Senna, or carry items on your Senna. That's a common out. Another common out is Corki twin shot reroll, or Lucian twin shot reroll, or Gangplank, just twin shot reroll in general. If you're playing around your Corki, it's really easy to transition into some type of twin shot board. That is some of the most common outs in this. But again, guys, you should learn how to use Yordles just to make econ if you have nothing else to play. A lot of times you'll just get an early game that is really bad, and you're going to lose every fight, so you might as well just play 3 Yordles. And sometimes you just play 3 Yordles just to make a little bit of Skrilla at the beginning of the game, and then you just transition out as soon as you have something better to play. So that's another way that you can play it. All right, cool. Let's get into a very similar build, and I talked about this a lot already, that bodyguards and Arcanists naturally pair very well together. Last thing I didn't say about the other build is you could just play Arcanist vertical with a Vex once you hit Vex. So yeah, and this is very similar to that. So this is bodyguard Arcanist, very common opener to have. And very good if you have brand VIP. We'll slowly transition this into a 3 debonair bodyguard build if you have brand VIP, but if you don't, we'll have some other outs. So if you have this opener, maybe hit a brand 2-star, maybe hit a brand VIP 2-star. Items will go on brand, Poppy, and Leona. I find that I hit VIP brand all the time, because he'll be in your shop all the time, so it's very likely he's going to be the VIP, just because he's going to be in your shop more often. So higher odds of hitting him VIP, and it's really good if you hit him VIP. So yeah, items will go on brand and Poppy, and then we'll eventually sell our Poppy for a Leona if we're going to be playing around VIP brand or VIP Leona. We can play around VIP Leona. So pros and cons. This is very flexible and strong early. If you actually have a VIP brand and you actually are able to add in that Leona and add in Leona and the Syndra, and you start to get some AP items, brand can be a very, very, very strong early game unit with good AP items like a blue buff and VIP. He can be very, 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 very powerful, and sometimes you can even run brand as your item holder all the way until you transition to a late game board. If he's VIP and you have good items, you can absolutely do it a lot of times. So it's very strong, very flexible early. I say it's very flexible because you could just like from this spot, you could just play Yordles, right? You could just play Yordles. You could play Debonairs. You could play Vertical Arcanist. Maybe you're just going to get a bunch more Arcanists. You say forsake brand and you item stack like Ziggs and then replace them with Malzahar or something like that. So there's a lot of potential outs. So some common outs, as I said before, when we're playing Arcanists and Bodyguards, they pair very well together. You can play Arcanist Vertical. You can play Debonairs. So those are going to be the common things we're going to play around. So some common outs. Level 5, you can replace Poppy with Leona and add a Syndra to meet your Debonair. Alternatively, you can add a Yordle and play for Econ from this spot and don't play for actually being strong with your brand. Mid game, mid game is a little awkward sometimes. So mid game, you need to upgrade your front line, and you either keep Brand. If he's VIP, you definitely think about keeping Brand for the mid game. But if he's not VIP, definitely you would want to switch to a Malzahar 2-star, as they can use the same items and Malzahar is stronger. Alternatively, if you hit a VIP Leona, you can still move the items off a Brand to a Malzahar or something like that, but just make sure that you're getting a VIP bonus on your Leona, because she can be very strong. So you'll still run Brand in that comp so you can get the VIP bonus. Cool. Other common outs, always pivot from non-VIP Brand. So yeah, I would always pivot from non-VIP Brand, with the small exception of sometimes, well, you would still pivot the items off of him, but you can run a VIP Leona in your build. That's what I'm trying to say. Some common really late game boards are going to be Ari comp. That's going to be the best transition here, because you are playing Arcanist, you are playing Bodyguards. You can pivot to an Ari composition. You can pivot to a Malzahar reroll composition for the mid game, and you can also even pivot to a Syndra reroll. If you get really good items for Brand, maybe you roll in the mid game to stabilize. You hit a lot of Syndras, and maybe you hit a VIP Syndra. Maybe you didn't have a VIP Brand, or you sell your VIP when you're rerolling. You hit a Syndra. I actually had a game like this. I had no intention of playing Syndra, but I had blue buff IEJG. I was going to play like a damage Ari build or something like that. I went for stabilization in the mid game, tried to hit a Malzahar 2, ended up hitting a Syndra 3, and I just played Syndra 3 to first place the lobby. So that's another common out. So most common, Ari comp, Malzahar reroll, Syndra reroll, going to be pretty easy from this spot, but you can just play this for econ and have a lot of different options. Cool. Let's talk about this one. Hextech, Bruisers. So Bruiser, Hextech, this is probably the best tree to play around in terms of what your synergies are and your options. You have so many options. This is why the first patch of 6.5 was really bad if you guys played it, because this tree was so powerful. The units were actually very strong, and look how easy it is to play around it. You have so many options. You have so many options. So if you're actually really good at the game, you just have such a big advantage, because the amount of options, the amount of outs you actually have when you play this are much higher if you're actually good at the game, versus playing bodyguards. Like if you play bodyguards, you have tremendously like less amount of outs, but they have since balanced the game a little bit better to balance around how many outs you have here. So Bruiser, Hextech, items will go on Sejuani. Your tank items go on Sejuani, and your carry items go on Rek'Sai or Caitlyn are going to be the most common people to hold your items there. And you're usually going to pivot out of them unless you're going to carry a Rek'Sai, which is a build, sometimes depends on patch. Okay, pros and cons. It's the most flexible early game build. Absolutely, bar none, most flexible build. The only downside to this is it does get nerfed a lot, and the numbers do, but that's really dependent on balance. But the only other downside I can think of is new players may get a little overwhelmed with the amount of options and stuff like that. But definitely on the high end of play, this is one of the easiest early games to play around because of the amount of options you have. But I could see a new player being overwhelmed by the amount of decisions they have to make when they're playing this comp, because you have so many options. Cool. So some common outs for this is to play Hextech Vertical, Hextech Sivir Vertical, and I'll talk about some better units to pair with this. So Hextech Sivir Vertical, Rek'Sai reroll if you want to play around like 4 Bruiser and play around 2. You can play like 4 Bruiser, 2 Hextech, 2 Striker, 3 Mutant. And when you're doing that, there's a lot of outs, but I'm not going to talk about that build. But that build has a lot of different ways you can play. You could pivot to a twin shot Lucian. You know, you could use these Hextechs and these Bruisers early game to play a twin shot build. You can make Bruiser comps. You could use this if you got AP items. You got a Morello. You can just move this into our Nata Bruisers. You can move this into Chemtech. It's not too hard to get there. You can play Alistar based comps, where Alistar is your main frontliner. You're all playing around Hextech. You hit an Alistar in the mid game. You can transition out Bruisers into a Hextech Alistar focused build with maybe a Lucian or a Sivir carry. Also, this is really easy to transition into a Irelia Bruiser based comps because you have Striker here. Very easy to fit in a bunch more Strikers like Gnar, like Sivir, because Sivir is a Hextech. Once you start to hit those and play around Irelia, that sort of thing. So those are the most common outs. But typically when you're playing Hextechs in the early game, the reason why it's so good is you can play 4 Hextech, you can play 4 Bruiser, you can play 4 Striker if you have a Striker emblem, you can play Enforcer, you can play around Snipers, you can play so many things. Like, it is so common to get this opener and just look at your synergies already, so good. And it's really common to get this type of opener too. Like I get this opener all the damn time. Where is he? Nocturne. I get this opener all the time. And then when you go to level 5, you just add a Rek'Sai, boom, look what that does for your synergies. And this is really, really, really nice. And if you end up wanting to play a Rek'Sai build, boom, you add this, you get Arcanist. And you want to play 4 still, boom, you add a Kha'Zix. Once you hit Kha'Zix, boom, we got mutants. So just look at that. I just made a build in like 2 seconds, and this is only one of like 8 different variations you can play. Really, if you learn any build, you need to learn this one because it is the has the most flex options and will be strong unless they just nerf the numbers horrendously. Bruisers will be strong the whole set to just play around because they're so easy to play. So easy to play around. You don't feel pressured when you're. Okay, Chemtech opener. This is a Chemtech opener. Now, this is not one of my favorite openers to play around, but it does still have a lot of options because you can pivot into challengers, you can pivot into innovators, you can play around assassin, innovator, stuff like that. So you do have a lot of options, but this is probably one of my least favorite openers to play around. Okay, cool. So this Chemtech opener, items are going to go on Twitch and Singed. If you have to slam tank items, be careful slamming items on Singed because if you end up playing around a lot of innovators and a lot of Chemtech, you're probably going to have to move the items pretty early off of Singed. So you might have to sell an upgraded Singed to move items to a better unit to hold them. So just be careful with that. Item second your Singed. So I try to just itemize my offensive items and then look for better units to itemize my tank items onto. Like once I know like really what I'm going to be playing, then I'll start itemizing my tank items because I don't like itemizing Singed. I don't want to sell him. Anyways, pros. Flexible. This is a very flexible build. Very flexible build because we can play Chemtechs. We can just keep playing Chemtechs. We can pivot to challengers. We can play around innovators. We can play around assassins. We can actually just make a transition into Bruiser Hextechs. We have this Hextech we're going to be playing around at least for the very beginning of the game. And if we start hitting all the Hextech units, we can just forsake our Chemtech opener. We already have Nocturne going, so we can just move into that. So very flexible. And it's pretty strong if you upgrade your Twitch and you have any items to play on, like IE, Giant Slayer, Runans, anything like that. Any good early game item. Blue buff actually is pretty good on him early game. So yeah, very strong if you get your Twitch upgraded. I will say the build is a bit awkward sometimes, so that's a little bit of a downside. You do have a lot of options, but yeah, the build does feel a bit awkward because, you know, I meet 3 Chemtech here. Now I hit a Tryndamere, then I have to drop this, and then I don't have like an Innovator option anymore. So I don't know, the build feels awkward to me, but may just be I'm not as practiced on this build as other ones, but it does feel a little bit awkward to me. And I don't think the outs are as strong as some of the other outs, except for like Innovator. And if you can get 5 Chemtech with a Chemtech heart is very strong. Okay, common outs, Tryndamere Challenger reroll. So you can just push this into a Challenger build where you just, you item stack your Twitch and then you move the items over to your Tryndamere. That can be a very common out. You can play Chemtech vertical. You can just go from 3 to 5 to 7 Chemtechs and, you know, you're probably going to item stack your Twitch and then move them over to Tryndamere still, and maybe make some AP items for Renata, play Chemtech vertical. You can play Twitch reroll, obviously. You can play Twitch reroll, and you can play a Chemtech-based Twitch reroll, or you can play Innovators. Most common one is Innovator. You can play Innovator Flex, so you can just push this, and forsake playing Chemtechs, just start adding Innovators, like once you get Echo in here, and you get your Echo in here, you're only 1 off of Innovator. Now you just add this, and you can just slow transition out of Chemtechs, and back into Innovators and hit your 5 Innovator and start playing Innovator Flex and start looking for Aurelias, stuff like that. You can just push this into a Bruiser vertical or Bruiser-based comps. And usually when you make Bruiser-based comps, you'll start item holding on like a Tryndamere. You'll item hold here, move your items over to Tryndamere, and decide later if you want to keep your Tryndamere or move the items over to like an Aurelia or something like that. And your AP items, if you get AP items, you can just hold on whoever and move them to Renata or Victor and play Bruiser-based AP comps. You can also like do the same thing and hold items, like same idea for Victor, but just hold items for Kaisa. Same idea with Jinx, but Jinx works a little bit better with other units now. Okay, those are actually all of the 5 openers, but I added an extra one on here just for you guys. I added the Merc opener because I only wanted to do 1 and 2 cost openers because those are things you can play around every single game. Now, this is if you got a Merc opener, you high rolled a Merc opener, you got a Merc heart, something like that. We're just going to assume you just got all these 3 units. And remember, this is not really part of the video. I'm just throwing this in there because I want to tell you guys some of the best ways to cash out. That's what we want to talk about here. So Mercs, your items are going to go on your damage items. If you're going to itemize one of these guys that are currently on your board, your actual Mercs, damage items are going to go on GP and MF. Great to put items on GP in the early game as he can farm you some gold. Very, very, very good. I love playing GP. GP and MF. And then your tank items, I always stack Ilaoi with tank items. She's actually a very, very, very strong tank. If you get like really strong tank items, she can solo frontline for your team, heals a lot because she does have healing in her kit. And Gangplank can come up here and finish the job for you, farm some gold for you. So yeah, and I also love item stack in Alawi because I know 100% I'm going to sell her at some point. So I can move the items off of her really, really easily. Pros and cons, first or eighth, baby. If you actually want to limit test this, if you actually want to get a huge merc cash out, you're playing first or eighth. So the pros are you can go first. The downside is you can go eighth. You want to just play win streak mercs, it's just in generally very good. You just make a lot of money. Sorry, I've been sick. Common cash out strats. So that's really what I talk about. So really common cash out strats. Item stack Trindamir with Bruisers. So if you're playing something like this and you end up adding a Trondamir, where is he? Trondamir. Where is that guy? Where is that big man? All right, you add this. You add this. You add let's assume you have like, or no, I want to assume anything. But if you have a Chemtech card, this is much easier. Boom, add this for Chemtech. Now I have 3 challenger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I knew I was miscounting. 6, and then you just add Camille. Boom, item stack this guy. You go, you loose streak, you go fast 7, you upgrade your entire board, you item stack Trindamir, you cash out on a 4 challenger, 3 Chemtech board. 2 bruiser, boom, there you go. And if you have a heart, it makes it a lot easier because you can end up dropping Gangplank and you can just play this at level 6 and you can play something stronger at level 7. You know what I'm saying? Some other common cash out strategies are to play around twin shots. Where's MF? Misfortune. Misfortune, get in there. Is to play around twin shots. Where is Sejuani? Sejuani. Lucian, where are you? Lucian. Okay. How many is this? 5? 5. And then if we want to go to 7, you can decide you want to add, we can actually at 6, we can add Caitlyn. We can add Caitlyn at 6. Boom, that gives us sniper. We can item stack Lucian or MF in this spot. And you just itemize with AP items on here, and you can itemize AD items on here. And this can be a very common way to cash out. Alternatively, you can drop this and then go to, you can drop this and just play the Corkster. You can play the Corkster, or you can go to 7 and you just play 4 Bruiser. So play this and this. And you play 4 Bruiser, 2 Twin Shot, 3 Merc, 2 Hextech. The other common way you can cash out is this same board, except for you just play Caitlyn here and you itemize MF with your AP items. Boom. All right, that is all the builds. That is all the openers. I gave you 6 on these. 5 of the most common ones that you guys can play around. Hopefully you guys learned a lot from this video. I think this is very good content in this for especially beginner players. I hope you guys can learn a lot. So please let me know in the comment section if you learned a lot. And if you like the video, please like the video. Sorry if I've been a little bit low energy, Andy, and haven't been posting a lot. I've been very sick. Probably have COVID. I've been at home. I don't leave home, but I probably have the Omicron. But it's wearing down, but I had to chug some energy drinks to gain enough energy to do this. Biggest thing is it's sapping my energy, making it really hard to do any work. So, but pushing through, got this going, and feel about 80% now. We're getting through it. So anyways, appreciate everybody who came out to the video. Hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and wherever you are, I just hope you're doing well. See you guys. Bye.